I've been watching videos on YouTube about job interview nerves. And a problem I have with those videos is they all seem to adopt a one-size-fits-all approach, which doesn't mean you won't learn anything from them. It's possible that you get nervous before an interview, or during an interview, or both. It's possible you get very nervous, or just a little bit nervous. So really, a one-size-fits-all answer may not be of much use to you. First of all, if you are extremely nervous, if you're like sitting in a house waiting to go up to catch the bus to your job interview and you're absolutely terrified, that's a bad situation. And there's a world of difference between that and just feeling a bit stressed in the waiting room before the interview. If you are absolutely terrified of job interviews, you really need to work on your self-control, is perhaps a good way of putting it. Controlling your nerves, and perhaps a good way of doing that is to take up yoga. If it works, fine. I don't mean yoga as in touching your toes this way or that way. I mean yoga as in breathing techniques, meditation, etc. So I'm going to assume that for most of you, nerves in job interviews is merely a bit of stress in the waiting room or perhaps in the interview itself. And they result from a lack of confidence, almost certainly. One video I've watched, which was particularly awful, said, "It's good to be nervous." No, it isn't. If you're nervous, you are in a bad situation, maybe not very bad, but in a job interview, you should be calm and composed. And you should be calm and composed before the interview and after the interview as well. If you are nervous, maybe the solution is that you need to work on your self-belief, and to do that, you really need to push yourself. And think of similar situations. Think of, for example, public speaking or public singing. Try and put yourself in a situation where you're going to do some public speaking. Maybe join a debating club or something. Or maybe go down to the local pub or bar where you live and try your hand at karaoke if they have karaoke. Not many people do nowadays. It's a shame. But basically, put yourself in a situation where you stand up in front of other people and perform in some way or another. And that will help you over time to improve your self-belief and your self-confidence. And that will probably rub off onto other situations. If you're more confident about getting up and singing karaoke in the pub, you're probably more likely to be confident about presenting yourself in a job interview. The one piece of advice I found very helpful in one of these videos I watched, and a shout out here to Don Georgievich, is what if you're nervous and you speak for too long? That's a good one. Obviously, the way in which you control your nerves is a long-term solution. So for short-term fix, you need to think about the way nerves affect you and how you can influence that. So looking at what this particular situation, you speak for too long because you're nervous, as some people do. Then after the interview, decide what questions you spent too long answering and reassess and think, how could you give me the same answer but more briefly? If you find that in an interview you're stammering a lot, then you need to practice questions in front of a mirror. Remember what questions you're given, rehearse an answer you should have given, and then speak that answer out loud in front of a mirror, or perhaps in front of members of your family. And those are perhaps quick fixes for some of the problems you might face in a situation where you're nervous in a job interview. But for the long-term fix, you really need to improve your self-belief in the ways I outlined earlier.